Today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025, and it is Yom Hamishi, the fifth day of the week, 21 Tammuz, 5785. Parshat Pinchas, the Torah portion of this week is Pinchas, and today's Daf Yomi is Avodah Zarah 29, page 29, which is really actually the 28th page, because it starts on page 2. And those dates and numbers mentioned are what this calendar is about. This is the PL-89 Gematriatic Thought Calendar and the Mercury Gematriatic Quantum Entanglement Quantum Thought Calendar. And I've been working on it for, it's going to be 13 years this August or September. It was actually in the month of Elul is when it was completed, of 2012, which was the year 5772 on the Hebrew calendar. And every day I present a few details that about the calendar, and in efforts of learning myself, I'm still learning about it and trying to present what it should be doing, what it could be doing, and what it has done. So this is a lunar solar calendar, and it also is focused on the Julian calendar, which is 13 days behind the solar calendar. So today is July 17th. So 17 minus 13 is 4. So on the Julian calendar, we're on July 4th today. July 4th was a Friday this year, and today is Thursday. And so the Julian calendar is one day ahead of what today is, yet almost 2 weeks behind in the past. And it takes 13 days ago and it puts it right up to today. It makes it, in fact, today. And I've applied the same formula to the Hebrew calendar, although the Julian calendar doesn't typically apply to the Hebrew calendar, but I've applied it to it in a sense that 13 days before the Hebrew calendar is the same, is also notated in the same way that 13 days before the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar represents the sun and everything that's implied physically and metaphysically and spiritually, religiously by the sun. And the moon is the Jewish or Hebrew calendar and represents everything physically, metaphysically, spiritually, etc. by the moon. By the Hebrew calendar. The moon is representing the Hebrew calendar. And those really come down to Jacob and Esau, Yaakov and Esav. And so it's interesting, one more point, that you see in the news a lot. You see Donald Trump and you see Benjamin Netanyahu in the media. You see them together, and just as they're coming out together, we all see them quite a bit in the media, standing together, talking to each other. And it's interesting that 13 years after this calendar was made, and it's about the meeting of Yaakov and Esav, Jacob and Esau, and the summer that this whole Iran war is happening, and Netanyahu and Trump are working hand in hand, and you kind of see the Yaakov and Esav together. And this is something that the Alter Rebbe of Chabad talked about in Torah Or, that in Parsha Vayishlach, where it talked about the meeting when Jacob met his brother and Esav met his brother after many years. First he was afraid, and then they met. It was a peaceful meeting, and it was written that the redemption, the end of times, is necessary for Jacob to meet Esau. And so that's what this calendar is doing. It's having Jacob and Esau meet together. And 13 years ago, I had no idea that this would be, but in the summer, 13 years from then, you see Donald Trump, which can represent the Gentile, the nations, and Esav, the good part of Esav, and and Benjamin Netanyahu, which represents Jacob, the Jewish people, Hebrew nation, and they're meeting together in a friendly way. And so with that, today on this calendar, in Dispensation 2, I won't go into dispensations, but the second in Dispensation 2, it's not the second dispensation, it's actually the third dispensation. The second dispensation is Dispensation 4, and the first one is Dispensation 8. So 8, 4, and then 2. Halves every time for reasons to be explained at a different time. In Dispensation 2, the 17th day of any month, in this case July, is going to be 14. Remember, it's a lunar and solar calendar, so this applies to equally to July, equally to Tammuz. So it's equally the 7th month and equally the 4th month, if you want to say it that way. And so, whether it's the 17th of July, which is today, or the 17th of Tammuz, which was 4 days ago, Sunday, it's going to be represented in this box here, which is number 14. And the point of this is to find events that happen anywhere, in the media, or business, or in whatever endeavor, and to see if there's a underlying numerical pattern that can be identified by it. So today is the 17th day of Tammuz, and something today happened that directly happened on the 17th day of Tammuz, and it happened today. Without going into too much detail, this is just my life, but I've seen it, and I start to think, is there something about that number 17 in this box 14? That's the question. Those are the type of questions that this calendar asks and tries to find. And I'm by no means complete. I'm still using it to try to in this sort of analytic, this data analysis, data science project. So the Julian calendar is, like I said before, 13 days before. So today in the Julian calendar, we are on July 4th. And July 4th in this calendar, and again, it's whether it's the 4th of Tammuz or the 4th of July, is going to be in box 24. And box 24, in this part, it's thirds. It's basically, this calendar is 3 months, and what you're looking at is 80 days, and yet it's 3 months because there's another 10 days that goes under here that's not on here. And there's a reason for that. It's called the 10-day twilight period, and the last 10 days of any 3-month period. Now, it's not necessarily a 3-month is going to be a season. It could be a 3-month from any starting point. And in Dispensation 2, which we're in right now, the starting point are the fixed months, not the cardinal months. In astrology, the fixed months are the middle months of the season. The cardinal are the first, and mutable are the last. And so it started off where the last was the first, and then that was in Dispensation 8. In Dispensation 4, the first was the first, which you would think intuitively that's what should have started first, but it didn't start that way. And I'm not sure why, but that can be a topic for a different discussion. And the last dispensation, there's one more after this. I think it's going to be 1. 1 is when they all combine. So it's 8, 4, 2, 1. Each dispensation splits in half. And so, and they correlated, interestingly, to the halving of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin halved in 2012. It skipped 2016. It also halved, but that was part of Dispensation 8. Then it halved in 2020 and 2024, and so it's interesting. And so 14 is, like I said, is the 17th of Tammuz or July. Today it's July, but 4 days ago it was also here. Now, if you count back 13 days from 14 on this calendar, you're going to get the number 24, box 24. See, it's here, 24. So today is the 4th day of July. Now, because this is based on 40 and doubled, it's 40 and then 80. So it goes up to 40. It only goes to 1 through 40, and then after 40 it resets, goes back to 1 again, and yet it has every number ad infinitum, because the rule of plus 40 is that any number here, let's say I wanted to get the number 358, it would be here, even though it goes only up to 40, because the rule is that plus 40 means that any 40 and addition of itself ad infinitum is considered the same number. That way you can get every number. So 40 is considered 80, is 120, is 160, is 200, etc. So if I wanted to say 358, I would go to, 358, 158, 118, 78, 38. I would go to 38. So I go to 38 right here, and I would just add 40 until I got to 358. So if I take 38 and I keep adding 40, I'm going to get to 358. So then 358 is here, and 558 is there, 758 is the same box, 958, 2,058, same thing. So that way you have every number. Now, what's interesting? Let's go back to, again, I got off on a tangent there. Basically, today is 14, like I was saying, because it's 17th, and you go back 13 days, you're going to be on the 24th. But why is that interesting? Because in this hemisphere, you have two of every number, right? You have because it's 40 and you have two 40s, you have 1 through 40 twice. So you have 24 here, and where's the next? I have 24. It's going to be over here. But if you count 17 boxes, it's going to get to 24. So the 17th day of the month on the first hemisphere is the same number as the Julian of today, which this could be a simple mathematical arithmetic sequence, but there's something very formulaic about it because of the Julian calendar. Julian calendar, because it was a correction to the Gregorian calendar, it went back 13 days, and it fits perfectly onto this calendar. So I have yet to discover discover what the meaning of that is. But just suffice it to say, the 24th is the 17th, and the 24th here is the 4th. And when I get to 14, okay, then it's the 17th. Okay. The same thing happens with the Hebrew calendar. Today in the Hebrew calendar is the 21st day of Tammuz, so we have entered today the 10-day twilight period. That means that the last 10 days, like I said before, of every 90-day period, which started in this case in ER and is ending now at ER, Sivan, and then as Tammuz completes in Av, which is another fixed month, we'll start it, we'll go Av, El Tishrei, and then we'll start with Cheshvan, which is another fixed month, go through 90 days, and then finally to Shvat, which is another fixed month. Those are the 4 fixed months. And so what's interesting about today on the Hebrew calendar is that T1, see, 10-day twilight 1 is 10 days, and it's like the transition period. T can be transition, but it also stands for 10. And it's also like a trial. It's a trial of leaving this and going into the next. Transition, it's a trial for the next. You're trying out the feeling of the next thing. You can already almost feel Av in the air. You can see it's coming up. And so that's what the 10 is. And it also goes to the 10 days of Daniel when he was asked to eat the king's non-kosher food, the meat, whatever they're making there. And he said, test us for 10 days, that we eat only vegetables, and let's see if we're just as healthy and strong and robust as the other servants of the king, and indeed they were. So that's also the idea of the 10 days of trial, of testing, I guess. Anyways, all that to say that this is T1. Today we started the T1, and the next 10 days we're going to be in the month of Av from now. So T1, if you go back 13 days on the Hebrew calendar, 13 days, you're going to be at the 8th day of Tammuz. Because 8 plus 13 is 21. But why is that interesting? Because 18 here, you can see, box 18. But if you go up to here, into the first hemisphere, it's really not a hemisphere, it's like a third, the first third, and you count 21 boxes, you're going to get to box number 18. Now, doesn't go 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. It doesn't do that. It goes 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9, and then it cuts off at 40. So if you would plug in all those factors as a mathematician, I'm sure you can demonstrate very logically why what I just explained is the way it is. But what I'm seeking to find out is, because it's structured that way, what can we learn about the fact that these numbers appear in these boxes? Like, if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, this is 16, 24, I wouldn't come up with all these different numbers that I do have. It takes a true understanding of the number 14 in conjunction with why it's 17. That's what I'm exploring. Why is it that when you're on box 17, which means when you're on the day 17, you think about 14, or I do, or anyone who uses calendar does, and 13 days before that, you will think about 24. Yet when you go to the first third and you're in 24, you'll also be at a 17. Why do you have to think about those numbers on those days? And I've had other very interesting proofs as to why that is, which correlates to the Daf Yomi. One just came to me is that on this calendar, today we're on Avodah Zarah 29. But on this calendar, when you're on the 29, you're actually on 14, which would explain why today, which is 17, you're thinking of 14. That's just one example. Now, the Daf Yomi, I'm sure, had nothing to do with this calendar. The Daf Yomi had no idea that this calendar would be made with an 8 plus 9, you cut off at 40. The Daf Yomi had no idea about that. And yet, it measures the Daf Yomi. And I'm finding things about the Daf Yomi every single day that have to do with this calendar. So it's not like I'm making it up. I'm just tuning into something that's already in play. And that's my basic area of exploration for today.